Hello, everyone. It is week 12. We are staring down the home stretch of the playoffs. It is make or break season for many rosters, many of my own. We're fighting for that playoff spot before the brackets are live and ready to go. We are here on the Fantasy Sanctuary. I'm your humble host, Emo Cowboy, aka Tyler, here to help you set your last minute lineups. Questions and answers will flow here on the channel. Drop them in chat. We're going to get to every single one of your questions, make sure that we're setting the best lineup possible for your fantasy rosters this week 12. While we get set up, let's get into checking all the news that might have dropped last night and coming into the games this morning. We have 1 hour till kickoff, of course. What's up, Who Hames? How you doing? Good to see you. Seeing you a lot around chat these days. Always good. Let's pull my news pulled up here, and we will swap to, as you can see, been a busy morning, getting everything set up. New pup is in the house, so a lot of less sleep, getting him all situated with our other dog. Rescue season is upon us. Last minute news. We're going to hit it all as we wait for questions to come in and flow. Looks like Keenan Allen is active and good to go. That said, he was limited and missed some practice time this past week. Rome Odunze seemingly getting started and getting heated up. So hard to trust really starting him over some other options. Malik Neighbors also expected to play. He did miss some practice time Friday with the groin. So not only is he battling Tommy DeVito syndrome, he will be a little banged up. We've seen groins kind of affect players previously, so he's definitely doubly more volatile this week. So something to keep in mind. But it is Tampa Bay. They do give up some of the most points to wide receivers and quarterbacks in the league. The 49ers expectedly are not playing Purdy this week. We found that out Friday. So, just all the types of stuff. All right. Buy and sell you. Half of a question. You might have jumped the gun there, sending it in. Jump in the chat. Drop your questions. If you don't include scoring settings, I'm going to assume half-point PPR for the most part. This was an interesting overnight report from Rappaport that Mike Evans will be playing without any restrictions. Some of the comments from the coaching staff earlier in the week suggested potentially, a pitch count of sorts. So that's really promising that, he's missed several weeks with a hamstring at a 30 or older player. But seemingly no restrictions means they feel really good about his hamstring and wheels up. That said, the Giants are much more of a run funnel. We've seen the Bucs kind of be plenty heavy with running back utilization. Okay, there we go. Buy and sell you. Our first question of our emergency week 12 start sit. Half PPR, no tight end premium, flex McBride or McConkey. This is an interesting question. McBride is seemingly the same type of PPR scam of several other wide receivers. He and Ferguson lead the league in red zone targets without a touchdown. Pretty interesting matchup versus Seattle this week, coming off the bye. Really interesting. McConkey did miss some practice, I believe, with an injury this week. It was a shoulder injury, so he is questionable for Monday. I tend to lean, and so one thing about this is the Chargers have been more pass rate over expected than normal. So this is a fair question. I tend to kind of like McConkey's been really, really solid. Injury stuff is always a concern. That said, Seattle's kind of a good matchup for running backs as well. So it's probably still McConkey if you're choosing between the two. Like, these are just really good options to have. I always struggle going tight end over a wide receiver, even if. Oh, and you're starting Kyler and Marv. Yeah, so you're either going, and I've done that. I have a league where I have Marv, Kyler, and McBride. So You live and die by those weeks. I'm checking expert consensus rankings, specifically looking at Pat Thorman from ETR. Shout out to him. Love his work because he takes into consideration pacing and volume and things of that. He's got that nature. He's got McConkey ranked much more ahead than McBride. And that's part of the problem with McBride is like the touchdown equity is not as good. So they're like best case scenario, they both see similar volume. McConkey is just slightly better bet to see any sort of red zone usage. And like I said, the Chargers have been much more pass rate over expected the last 4 weeks than the Cardinals coming out of the bye. Not really sure how they're going to attack things. You got to think they're going to get Marv more involved. You're starting Marv this week. So tend to think that they've used the running backs a lot. They've talked highly about Trey Benson. Seahawks are kind of a weak matchup versus running backs, as we mentioned. So I think you got to go McConkey by Apocalypse. It's flex because Bowers is at tight end. Yeah. So again, good problem to have. I'd say it's in a perfect world, it's McConkey. The shoulder thing is a bit concerning. So here's where we can get in the weeds because waiting on chats to come in. So buy and sell you. I like to kind of talk through. I like to take into consideration the injury stuff. We saw him kind of bang up his shoulder. He missed a drive or two, came back in. So you do worry about the shoulder. Let me pull up Jeff Mueller. I believe he might have some more nuanced talking about this. But part of the concern I would have is like missing a full game or part of a game in case of re-injury. I know the shoulder stuff can be re-injured quite easily. And so from that standpoint, McConkey becomes the start in rank, but potentially the more volatile matchup. So really it's about your risk tolerance for any potential injury because McConkey has gotten kind of banged up. He's missed a couple drives or a couple of partial games to injury. Let's check out with Jeff, our go-to trusted source, as well as Edwin Porras, to check on injury takes. Interesting. I could have sworn he would have had something on Lad. Well, then maybe I'm overblowing the shoulder then. Here we go. His post on Lad McConkey, 2 limited practices Friday and Saturday, so not much intel for the AC sprains. Average missed time is less than a full week, and then re-injury is 2.5 weeks. Apparently no re-injury aggravation is noted. He did play the rest of the game without a setback. Okay, there you go. So looks like we roll with Lad. I do just want to always take into consideration the injury stuff, especially for a player that has gotten banged up quite a bit. So it looks like it's full go Lad. Let's see. Good call. I got to go back to answering my own questions. Sometimes analysts need to slip away, check their own brain. Yeah, no, absolutely. Good luck. Peace and love. Hit the like, hit the sub on your way out. Good luck with your matchup. And yeah, I mean, that's the same thing. I do this because it makes me question my stuff and keep everything above board. JDollar510 in the chat. Welcome. Good morning. Good luck this week 12. Drop the like, drop the sub as I answer your week 12 lineup Q&A. Aaron Jones or Rachaad White? Okay, so this is really going to depend on if this is PPR or not. If you're not telling me, I'm going to assume half PPR. They're kind of similar plays right now. Aaron Jones splitting time with Cam Akers, Rachaad White splitting time with Bucky. Bucky getting some strong ass coach speak about workload. Rachaad White still seeing a good amount of work on the ground and in the air. So similar types of plays. Aaron Jones a better player, the older player who's kind of been struggling as of late. But the matchup for the running backs for Tampa are so good, especially with Danny DeVito. So I called him Danny. Tommy DeVito starting. That's what happens when you have too many memes amongst friends. It's probably going to be Jones for expert consensus if I had to guess. Just his workload has just been super, super disappointing. In the Chicago matchup, not exactly the most inspiring thing. But if one of these guys is going to get like close to a full workload, it's not going to be White this week. Yeah, Pat Thorman and expert consensus rankings have him 10 spots higher than Rachaad White. If we're assuming half PPR. Sorry, guys, my pup's over there just bubbling in his sleep. So it looks like Aaron Jones. The only real concern is that just workload or injury. You know what? As we're saying that, let's go to Jeff real quick. I did see he had a note in his roundup on Jones. I am interested to see. Okay, so some of the limitation was we've seen rib injuries kind of limit players, but since he was a full practice, we should expect maybe more efficiency another week removed. So J Dollars, we're gonna go. Okay, yeah, half PPR, we're gonna go Aaron Jones, especially because high value touches. Cam Akers was likely a way to help him rest partially through a week of dealing with rib injury, and we've seen that really affect players previously. That's what we do. We just flip between the news and the health stuff, and then projections. What's up, Spurious? Welcome to the chat. You got me questioning something. Hey, I make everybody question things. You know what I'm saying? Who I'm saying the ultimate joke, going from a QB named Danny to one whose name is DeVito, got this world in a frenzy. That's a good. I didn't even think of that angle. Danny Dimes, Tommy DeVito, Danny DeVito. I mean, it is a circus in New York, so they play like Danny DeVito. You're welcome, brother. Good luck this week. Hit the like, hit the sub on our road to 4K subs. Chugging along, rapidly approaching 3,500. Very excited about that for this channel. Very exciting stuff. Let's see, make sure we're not missing any news. Bateman did pop up on the injury report this week, but he got removed going into the Monday Night Football game matchup. Another thing about the Ladd McConkey thing is like Baltimore, that secondary, talking about kingmakers for quarterbacks and that whole pass attack. Ladd McConkey, another 2-touchdown, 100-yard game. Go full Jamar Chase versus Baltimore. Would be great. Would be awesome for the bags. We were all very worried about if Hayden Hurst would play or not. Will Disley, got to fire him up for a tight end. And that I meant to say that sarcastically, but in a lot of cases for Bipocalypse, you are pretty stoked about having a guy like Disley who is poor man's Kate Otten, kind of. And then looks like no other late breaking news that we should be too worried about. Yeah, the whole Keenan Allen fade thesis from the offseason is kind of coming to fruition. Banged up, over 30-year-old, no money, no contract after this year, so no reason to play through, especially on a team that was likely to miss the playoffs in a good division with a rookie quarterback attached to Shane Waldron, who up until last week was 10 weeks of a problem for the offense. Defense regressing in a lot of key ways with just normal injury and, quarterback stuff. So, yeah, it's everybody's been talking this week about T. Higgins and Jamar Chase potentially, missing time late in the season because of contract stuff. Well, Keenan Allen right there. I mean, last year he had no guaranteed money on his contract, was a little banged up in his ankles and legs, sat the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season, was crushing top 10 wide receiver through the season, missed the last 4 weeks of the season, tanked a lot of teams that had him on there. Just a big advancing piece. So we're starting to see that kind of come to fruition in the modern NFL. Looking for any late-breaking Jay Glazer bombs. Jay Glaze your knobs. Why am I the way I am? Well, who's to say? Checking the other feed right now since I'm going to be mindful of scrolling through my Twitter account since the NFL doesn't like it when you play their content on your channel. Let's see, looking through. Adam Thielen active, Jalen Coker inactive. Cokeheads down bad. But it looked like he popped up with a quad injury Friday, DNP. So not shocking that they're shutting him down for health stuff as Thielen gets healthy. Leggett, sneaky, could have a really, really good game from a volume and target share standpoint. Kansas City, pretty tough matchup. But we'll see if Bryce can keep it together. I am the KY. Welcome to the chat, bud. Good morning. Asking, would you play Thielen if Coker sits? So Coker is DNP today. Was DNP Friday, isn't active today. Thielen is active. Thielen's definitely interesting. I think Leggett's probably the stronger of the two, but yeah, Coker isn't active today. Thielen's active, so it's Thielen and Leggett and Brooks as like the main three in that that target vicinity. So it just depends. Who do you think DFS heads are gonna play more, Thielen or Leggett? I have a sneaking suspicion Thielen gets more of the steam and ownership, and I have a strong suspicion that Leggett, the younger player who's got much better athletic profile and has had really strong metrics in the starting lineup, is the better play. Just off the cuff. And then you're mostly on DraftKings, huh? So, I mean, yeah, Thielen is such more of like a target vacuum than he is a big play waiting to happen, and Leggett has been able to kind of do both. Although Adam Thielen in the slot likely going to be a thing. Let me look and see what Thorman's got. And Thorman's got Leggett in PPR ranked 41, Thielen ranked 53, and that looks like it was an update taking into consideration the Coker news. And on half PPR, Leggett 41st, Thielen 58th. So, I mean, strong play. I give it to the young guy, especially the guy that's gotten more reps with Bryce Young, seemingly, since Leggett wasn't cracking the starting lineup originally. So, as far as like second team was concerned, I think Bryce was getting more work with. But I know people have like the hey, they connected plenty last year type of thing. So, I get it. He's an old guy coming off injury. You know what? Let's go see what Jeff thinks. I would be strongly wondering if he's going to have any efficiency dips this week as well. Because it's your question just has a lot to take into consideration. This is his opinion. Avoid. This is what I'm more concerned with: high re-injury risk, low volume risk. So, if that's the case, Leggett could be even stronger of a play if Thielen comes in and misses any time or is just hampered returning. You're not seeing many builds now, but I think with things adjusting late, I think you're going to see Thielen pop more than he probably should. KY. Huhaim is asking, any thoughts on Jatavian Sanders as a scroll down in underdog streets? Yeah, I mean, no one wants to talk about this, but like any tight end is a great scroll down because it's just whoever catches touchdowns. His usage is pretty strong. Well, pretty strong for himself. He's had a couple of games. I think his last game was 2 catches, 1 touchdown. But with Coker being out, Thielen potentially being, he's fine. Leverage wise, Kansas City, should they should push Carolina a lot. So like game script wise, certainly. I mean, any tight end's live to be scroll down guy. Is he probably the best scroll down guy? Might be too thin. I think he's probably a stronger scroll down guy in 12-man drafts than 6-man. But if he just randomly catches like 50 yards and a touchdown, yeah, potentially. To beat the Brock Bowers, Taysom Hill teams, though, or not Taysom Hill, they're on bye week this week. The Bowers, McBride, Kelsey teams, you're likely going to probably need to see a little bit stronger, but we've seen Jonnu as well. Jesus. I don't know. It's yes. Yeah. Yeah. He's consolidated most of the work. Is he an exciting tight end? No, absolutely not. Let's check how they've been against tight ends this season. let's see, they're averaging the last 11 weeks 8.5 targets, 6.5 receptions, 74.3 yards, and 0.3 touchdowns per game for standard 8.8 points. So that doesn't count. So what that would be. I mean, yeah. So it looks like a middle of the road. Yeah, I was gonna say middle of the road to pretty good against tight ends. That said, how much do we buy into the narrative that Bryce Young is small, therefore cannot see the middle of the field very well, therefore the matchup isn't as good because potentially small man. I think it's definitely interesting, especially if like the Chiefs blow the fucking doors off of the Panthers and then rest starters for like starting in the third or fourth quarter, and then the Panthers guys get a bunch of mop up duty. Their corners have been better against wide receivers than the tight ends, so yeah, I mean, I think you're gonna see a lot of, and then with Miles Sanders out, you're gonna see a lot of like Hubbard and Brooks targets. And then, yeah, who are they going to feed? Are they going to feed Thielen out of the slot? They're going to feed Leggett. Bryce has looked a little bit better on concept, so very interested. But yeah, I think most tight ends are live as scroll downs, much more than people think. I think outside of like the top 3 tight ends, you should probably just be taking them equal amounts for like stacking and bringbacks. I probably like Leggett more as a scroll than Brooks, but I think Brooks is definitely viable. I'd say much more viable in like the huge like battle royale stuff where like a one-off is very valuable and he could literally just be your one-off guy because any tight end that scores 2 touchdowns is going to be hugely valuable as leverage. Small field stuff, probably too cute. Big field stuff, most guys are viable as a guy. And then I'd say in 12-mans, he's probably the strongest as like a scroll down 12-man tight end. And then especially in DFS, definitely an interesting take. All right, refreshing for the laser bombs as we near the 1 hour mark before kickoff. If you got your questions, drop them in chat. We will answer. Start, sit, trade, playoff moves, vibes checks, hair product and hair care questions. I rolled out of bed and it's kind of a mess this morning. Also, we can talk hot takes for Thanksgiving. I can't wait. I mean, one of the football games is going to be disgusting. That's obviously the Dallas game. But I, for one, am excited to eat fried turkey nonstop all day and watch football nonstop all day. Sounds like a great time. I love Thanksgiving. So excited. All right, let's go through, while waiting on questions to come in, let's go through the rest of the Mueller notes because there's a very good chance there's some little tidbits here that could be interesting. Now, granted, this was from 3 days ago, but just good to like touch base with. Not expecting much out of Jonathan Brooks since this is his first week active and playing, so would expect to see, normally these guys tend to take like 3 to 6 weeks of a ramp up, average of 4 weeks, if I recall correctly, to like full ramp up. Nick Chubb, you're kind of seeing a similar type of thing. So obviously older, but still, especially for someone that took this long, had to be like some sort of setback. So I think Chuba Hubbard's workload this week going to be really, really strong yet again. If anyone's avoiding him because of Brooks, I think that's overreacting. As we mentioned, Aaron Jones probably a week removed from ribs, all full go and ready to go for effectiveness. We've seen ribs hamper guys like Brian Thomas Jr. Ribs are just an injury that hampers any position, pain tolerance thing, contact avoidance, all that stuff. Trey Benson, sneaky, could be an interesting flex by Apocalypse. He's been pretty efficient. He's been much more efficient running the ball the last few weeks. Coach Speak Index noting months-long positive speak about Benson becoming more comfortable and more efficient in the system. They've kind of been utilizing him. And DeMarcado could get less to 0 today. Seattle's a pretty good matchup for running backs. We could just see an efficiency thing, or they could just, really go full bore. So definitely an interesting worse options. He and Rojo kind of similar types of like interesting plays. Benson probably an efficiency play. Rojo more of like a random touchdown or like long down and distance thing, or a DeAndre Swift re-injury. Swift is good to go, but he was already losing some work to Roschon Johnson, and groin injuries could be re-aggravated in game. As we talked about on this channel and on PPR Tyler's channel earlier in the week, Kareem Hunt, sneaky great play in Battle Royale. He was going undrafted. We did not expect Pacheco to come get a large amount of the work, and now he's inactive. Kareem Hunt with a smash spot against the Panthers. Very nice. Tony Pollard, another full workload, but will it matter versus a pretty good Houston Texans D-line that is getting their star Will Anderson back on the line? It's probably Ridley or bust, and then offense yet again. For the Raiders, looking like Amir Abdullah is going to be the starting lead back in PPR land. Very, very viable. Probably one of the better streamers to take. I doubt they give Dylan Labe much more work, considering he hasn't beat out Amir Abdullah all season as the veteran. He's been relegated. Laube has basically been relegated like special teams or bust. So Amir Abdullah for half PPR and PPR, very much PPR, live for like a random touchdown or 3 to 5 receptions. So if you're in the Bipocalypse, I like Amir Abdullah more than say the Trey Benson, Jalen Wright. Who's the other running back we mentioned? Roschon Johnson of the world. At least is probably just as good of a, if not slightly better, from a volume play perspective as Roschon Johnson. CMC, I wonder if he's just going to be, the full engine of the offense versus Green Bay with no Purdy. And will he be good enough to get going? A little bit of re-injury risk with Josh Jacobs, but likely fine. We noted that Thielen, coming off the hamstring, is still at high risk of re-injury and of workload management. We saw the Texans take it kind of easy on Nico Collins, and here's his first game back. Nico should be back fully this week. Very excited for that. Who am saying this is Laube's only chance to gain ground. Yeah, and I don't think he did it. Let me pull up the exact Coach Speak Index quote on the Raiders' backs in question. Let's see. Quote from Antonio Pierce. If they're not ready to go, talking about Zamir White and Madison, Abdullah will be the starter. You've got Dylan Labe. We'll see what happens with our practice squad players, Sincere McCormick. The plan is to see who's productive, try to run plays that work for them. Those are 3 different backs that have not started for us this year, but have played. I prefer young rookies not to play until later in the season to allow them to get up to speed and how to practice. Laube has kept his head up. He's disappointed in the performance that he had the last time he played, but we're excited to see him play this week. I think he's fucking toast unless he just pops a big one randomly, or Abdullah is super, super struggling. And Abdullah is good enough to do the same thing that Madison and White have done, which is just barrel forward and hold on to the football, right? I think Laube probably only gets going if Abdullah fumbles or takes like a bunch of negative runs. I expect them to be pass heavy to keep up with Denver, because the Denver matchup for Bo Nix in the passing game is so nice, because Vegas is just not good at pressure off the D-line. So if Bo Nix is as efficient as he's been, especially with no pressure, I expect them to put up a ton of points. And so Vegas will have to chase. And that means flowing through Brock Bowers, flowing through Myers with checkdowns to Abdullah. I just don't see how Dylan gets involved unless they're just benching all the stars and he gets the fourth quarter of garbage time mop-up duty and does anything with it. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like that's what your hope is, but do they, or do they just stick all the starters? And Abdullah is just the third string vet. I mean, there's nothing stopping him from getting all the mop up duty. Lave could just get like the last 2 drives and then doesn't do anything with the backups on offense. His best chance to matter is just like special teams, and he just pops when I'm not expecting much of anything of Lave. I really am not. Let's see, Slayton goes. Slayton, still an interesting scroll down guy. We're talking about scroll down guys in tournaments. I think Slayton's still interesting. I know it's Tommy DeVito, and I know Neighbors is in. We've seen Slayton have some good games, like 3 or 4 catches, 80 to 100 yards, and a touchdown with Neighbors this season, and we've seen plenty of that last year. So Neighbors being in is good, but if Neighbors is kind of ineffective and used more as a decoy, with Slayton being like the only guy that can like push the offense, still interesting. Not as interesting. This probably is just a game where it's like Wandale and Neighbors just getting a bunch of low A-dot targets and DeVito takes a million sacks. But Tampa Bay defense is bad, and Tommy DeVito could potentially hit Slayton for a deep open pass once or twice during the game because of that weak Tampa Bay secondary. So I still like Slayton. It's like an interesting play in tournaments and desperation flex. I think there's worse guys. Noah Fant. Why did I ever believe in that setup? My God. Laporta right back. Hunter Henry could potentially be getting more workload this week with May at quarterback if Hooper misses or is limited with a neck injury. Let's go to the Underdog channel, check for any news. It might have been coming in late. Not seeing anything. So for folks looking, I guess we have a lot of confident folks tuning into the channel that have no burning questions. And that's good. I hope y'all have basically locked up your playoff spots, feeling good, rocking and rolling. What a wild season. And this is a season where it feels like anybody could win, right? Because we talked about like the Bengals guys could end up, if they lose another game and they're out of the playoffs, they could be resting the last week or two with injury to save themselves for free agency in their next contract. And all of a sudden, anybody that got to the championship final rounds with those guys don't have them in their lineups. Trevor Lawrence is potentially shut down for the rest of the season. We've already seen the Cowboys get shut down for the rest of the season. It's ridiculous. Huham's asking what my take on B-Rob, price too low. So this is from like a DFS standpoint. Pricing. Let's see. What is this price? Yeah. That's what you're asking. You can check what the live is. Let me pull it up. I mean, B-Rob is just such a strong play because it's what everybody's saying. The Dallas Cowboys are one of the better run defenses to go against. His role has been much, much stronger on the ground versus Ekeler. Ekeler getting targets in games where they're losing and falling behind. I absolutely do not expect that to happen in like 95% of the outcomes with Cooper Rush and how well the Washington defense is playing. So Robinson is priced. Oh yeah, he and Ekeler both at 5,600. I do agree that's too low. I think part of that's probably just like receptions bias, since DraftKings is PPR. But if we're talking about like who's more live for the 100-yard bonus, it's absolutely Brian Robinson, he's got more carries in the red zone. He's gotten his fair share of targets, as we've seen, and Cliff seems to be protecting the rookie quarterback with that rib injury the last few weeks. and another week where they have no reason to really push it really hard outside of Dan Quinn absolutely stunting on his former team. So yeah, I think Brian Robinson's a very strong play just from like a touchdown equity, yardage bonus standpoint, and just workload. You know, if they're controlling the flow of this game the entire time, I think both guys can have really efficient runs, but I fully expect Brian Robinson to see a majority of the touches there. I know it's not going to be as many targets. I don't expect either one of the running backs to see a lot of targets. It's either going to be Noah Brown because they just refuse to move Terry McLaurin to a different side of the field, and Dallas is only good against wide receivers on his side of the field. So it's either going to be Zach Ertz and Noah Brown getting the maybe 18 to 20 total targets thrown in this game. I don't expect Daniels to run a whole lot. I don't think they'll need to. The running game has been really efficient and really solid. And Dallas is dog shit. So, and we just saw a guy like Joe Mixon just have his absolute way with them. And the guy that plays the Joe Mixon role, like, the short down and distance and high value, short yardage and red zone stuff is Brian Robinson. So if one of these guys is live for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, it's absolutely Brian Robinson. I think this is a game where Eckler isn't used as much unless it's kind of just like a little bit of like mop-up duty, a random red zone touch. Yeah, 5,600 seems a little low. Kareem Hunt being 5,700 versus Carolina, equally low. Like very hilarious that Tony Pollard is ranked above both of those guys, Brian Robinson and Kareem Hunt. And Bucky Irving at 5,300, I think, is too low. You talk about a guy who's been really efficient at strong matchup, and he's live to catch way more targets than Brian Robinson or Kareem Hunt is in that game. So a lot of fun running back plays to play on this slate. Yep, exactly. But I think even it would have been great if Pacheco did play, because people would be spooked thinking they got to play him or it's going to be split. I don't think Pacheco was ever going to see that many touches in a game like this. Coming back from that injury, they've lost one game. It's the fucking Panthers. Their defense is dog shit. And Kareem Hunt can just churn for 3 or 5 yards at a clip. It's not hard. There was no reason to push Pacheco off of a fractured, like it was a fractured leg, right? Like there was no. I thought he was a strong play even if Pacheco was going to play. Yeah, he and Travis Kelce, I think Spags on the splash play was saying that they were projected for a lot of ownership between the two of them. Yeah, Javonte being 5,200 versus Las Vegas and Brian Robinson, Kareem Hunt being a few hundred extra dollars is quite hilarious. Yeah, because Pacheco's price at 6,200 is really funny. Aaron Jones is a potentially really strong play. Like we say, we expect him at full efficiency. $100 cheaper than James Conner. Potentially similar workload. What are the interesting cheap running backs? Jonathan Brooks being more expensive than Estime is interesting. Estime is likely to see more touches and snaps and usage than Brooks by a long shot, even with the weird stuff. I think Estime saw like nine snaps and a couple touches last week. And if Javonte, we've seen them just pull the rug week in and week out. And if Javonte is struggling and they just give Estime is more alive. Sean Tucker is going to see a couple touches and see special team stuff. Roschon Johnson at 4,600. That might be one of the better like total punt cheap guys. Yeah, Abdullah's cheap. Yeah, Abdullah is 4,300. And on PPR sites, I mean, I know he got 10 points on DraftKings with a touchdown last week, but 3 receptions, 3 targets, 16 yards. And now he's the lead back, which means 8 to 12 rushing attempts minimum and potentially 70 to 100% of the targets in a game they are likely going to trail. Could do worse. Jeremy McNichols as a total punt running back play who could potentially get a quarter and a half of the mop-up duty, and every once in a while mixes in. Jeremy McNichols has mixed in with the two active guys. He saw 3 attempts last week, 4 attempts versus Philly, 8 attempts versus New York. I believe that was the game that Brian Robinson missed. So not efficient at all, but 4 and 3 touches when both are healthy, 1 reception for 1 yard last week. So, in a game where every running back could do really good and they could be blowing the doors off, interesting. Lauviat, Stoneman, and I still wouldn't play him over any of those guys we just said. McNichols touchdown lines, I like. You get good spice for something plausible. Yeah, absolutely. We've seen it happen. Just random bullshit. They could. This is absolutely a game where they could go full Lions and just score 4 or 5 touchdowns before the end of the third quarter. Pull B-Rob, pull Eckler, put in Mariota, put in McNichols, and just let it go. If you like it, that's good. That's good. I get it. I really do. It's thin. But that's the beauty of it. We said if Laube will get a chance if Abdullah struggles or he's just hotter. Like, what if Abdullah gets the first drive, Laube gets the second drive, or they go two series, 1 series, 2 series, 1 series in like the first drive or two, and Laube just has a little bit more pop, or Abdullah gives up a sack or fumbles, and then Laube gets the work for the rest of the game. Yeah, then you're printing. All right, we're checking for last minute news here as we near 15 minutes before 45 minutes before kickoff. We'll probably wrap this stream up here in 15. Yeah, this should not be shocking. Chuba's going to get a bulk of the carries. Brooks is going to get the targets. That said, I don't think he's going to get all of the targets. I think he'll get a couple attempts to do something, and he may not even, it's like, and that makes sense. Targets are less risky for running backs coming off of injury because they get to get in space and they get to protect themselves from hits. So it makes sense if they try to give him a couple like out routes, screen passes, things to help him kind of just be in space and pick up steam. This is funny because this feels like too few to reach out. So it should be a lot more than that, but it's not because it's Daniel Jones. All right, checking for more tidbits as we do week 12. Man, a game where Bucky Irving and Mike Evans have big, fat fucking days against the Giants would be cool as shit. Oh, here we go. Interesting. So we knew something was up with the Brooks thing. According to, who's this? Someone with apparent no says he was told a few weeks ago that Brooks began dealing with elbow tightness and fatigue. He then had the shoulder injury that was labeled to me as an AC labrum. Oh, this is Brock. My bad. Brock Purdy. Elbow tightness, fatigue, then had shoulder injury that was labeled to me as an AC labrum injury. MRI was for the labrum. Tricky section. Elbow tightness and AC labrum. Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, Spurious. I'm reading. I don't want to get fucking flagged by the NFL. Let's see. Jeff is saying that you can play through he thinks it might be a small labral tear for Purdy. He says you can play through these once the pain swelling goes down and the shoulder joint stability returns, but re-injury risk and aggravation risk remains. And I'll go to this. One tissue that would fit a progressively worsening status to rotator cuff could bother and inflame immediately. Oh, that sounds fantastic. No bueno. CMC's tight pussy, who he got from his lovely fiancée. Are they married now? Did they get married? Olivia Culpo? Olivia Culpo? Is that her name? Am I saying that right? Anyway, the joke was she gave him pussy tightness and he gave Brock Purdy pussy tightness. Yeah, and if I recall correctly, part of the Purdy concern was some of that off-season. Didn't he have like off-season surgery on his shoulder? Coming out of the playoff game, his rookie season, and going into the offseason. That's why some folks thought Lance would get the shot again because he was the first round pick and Purdy wouldn't be ready. And the docs told us all summer that he was on track and looking good and should be A-okay. So I think this is the second time it's been an injury to his throwing shoulder. So this is not good from that standpoint. Yeah, let me see. Brock Purdy injury history. I think it was a throwing shoulder injury. Let's see. Those are only 2023. Let's see. Yeah, January 29th, 2023, arm elbow tear. Yeah, it was the torn UCL. I think it was his throwing shoulder. Exactly, historical anomalies. Tight vaginas spreading in San Fran, which they love, you saying San Fran. Or I think they like San Fran better than Frisco. I think they hate Frisco. They don't like San Fran. And they do like Madlib. Devin Davis just got here, so sorry if this has been mentioned already. Devin, no apologies necessary here on the channel. I don't know why I'm doing this accent. No apologies necessary. Come and go as you please. That's just my life motto. Packers D, a decent pick on DK with Trent Williams out, Allen at quarterback. Yeah, decent. Sure. We were just looking at DraftKings pricing. Let me pull that back up. Let me refresh my memory on pricing of defenses. So you're asking about the Packers, right? Yeah, Packers D. Let's see. Why am I not? Oh, it's an early slate, my bad. Where's the un momento, Devin? Un momento. There we go. Packers D at 2,800, above Patriots, below Seahawks. Yes. So here's the thing. Brock Purdy being out is the biggest win. Trent Williams is the second most impactful player on that offense, as we know. So that said, it's still Kyle Shanahan. CMC is still healthy and Kittle's healthy. I think your concern with D is like pricing and ownership. Okay, so you're playing Broncos D now. It's just ownership steam. I think if you're going after the Packers because folks aren't taking in consideration how bad Brandon Allen has been compared to his like 2 good games and Trent Williams being out, so they're losing their tackle and they're losing their starting quarterback. That's pretty good for variance. That said, are they going to throw a lot? Because both of these teams have tended to run a lot more when the chips are down, playing pretty conservative. So that'd be the concern, is like, because defense is more about just like random turnovers and touchdowns. How many turnovers or touchdowns are you going to see if Kyle Shanahan is just going to try to run the ball on the right side of the line away from the Trent Williams fill-in and Green Bay's defense? You know, that would be my concern about the DST. whereas the Cardinals could potentially see more pass heavy Seattle Seahawks. That said, I believe Crane noted that Seattle's been less pass happy and pass heavy the last couple weeks than they initially were. You're paying up for Denver defense versus Las Vegas. I think saving the money to go down to Packers is totally viable. I'm pretty sure. Let me check the ranks. I'm pretty sure they're pretty similar tiers of defenses. So if you're gonna get the savings for it, Broncos were super heavy and heavy favorites and hot and bothered, and they've kind of cooled down from my recall. Thorman does have Denver's defense ranked as a second overall play in the redraft slate, with Packers being 11th. Like I said, that's how much money you're saving on that. 3,200 versus 2,800. I think it could be extremely valuable just for like saving a little bit of money if you're also saving like 10 to 20% on ownership. I bet the over on Jacobs rushing attempts, bet that game is going to be a slog. Yeah, it definitely could be. The attempts, he was doing like like a quad and calf injury. So this might be a game where, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's gonna be a weird game. Yeah, I don't mind it. Yeah, missing the tackle and a backup quarterback, the turnover, fumble, touchdown stuff could be hot and heavy because just protection, and we've seen this before where like backup quarterbacks don't have as much chemistry taking snaps from the center and all that good stuff, which botch snaps and weird stuff happening increases, which increases the likelihood the defense gets to score good points. So I don't mind that at all. Vegas has been one of the better matchups for defenses, but I think that's probably why Broncos will be popular, even at their slightly elevated price. Tampa Bay is probably more popular going against the DeVito thing. I like the Broncos versus the Bucks pivot just because I do expect Las Vegas to pass more than New York potentially could with Tracy and DeVito. The Bears defense versus Darnold, who's been pretty poor, that's pretty interesting too. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's viable. It just depends on how you want to play it. I think when it comes to defenses, you're just looking for, who projects the best for turnover and maybe getting the least amount of ownership for the random variance touchdowns, because special teams touchdowns are also make or break. Off the top of my head, the Packers special teams isn't particularly interesting or good, and Denver, you do have some pretty explosive returners in Marvin Mims. So does it feather in the cap? You worried about changing anything in my lineup because whoever I take out always smashes. I get you, man. I do. This putt behind me is struggle bussing. Vikings D versus Caleb in a cold game feels good to me. Yeah, I mean, would have been more interesting with Waldron. He looked pretty good simply because Caleb was kind of just like, if it wasn't there, he was just taking off, tucking, and running, which is what he did pretty effectively in college. And I think that's alleviated some of like the not moving the chains, long down in distance, and shortened drives. It's just him going like, it's not there, tuck and run. We do know that Flores is gonna throw some mixed coverage and stuff out there, but like I said, this could be like a bet Caleb's rushing over. If he just sees what he doesn't like and he just takes off and runs, behind fat Keenan Allen, who is their backup left tackle. Darnold's been playing worse than Caleb. I think the last few weeks he's been kind of prone to some really stupid shit, especially like the fumble-iness has been higher. So when you talk about turnovers, I don't mind it. We're also likely to see more pass attempts from Minnesota than Chicago, don't you think? Because it's still KOC. I'm going to check for any last minute news as we ponder the plays of the week. Devin, I'd say this. If you have a gut feel about something, heuristically, go with that. You don't want to regret a call. I just say that if you have access to sims or sim projections or anything like that, or if you have been hearing, you just want to be careful about like late steaming up it, because defense is like the most variant bullshit ever. So you're better off trying to get a little bit of correlation or getting the defense no one else is playing just for the variant side of things. If you have a good feeling about Denver, whatever. I don't get too distracted in the weeds, because it's very likely the Packers defense becomes more popular because it's $400 cheaper. And like you said, missing their starting quarterback, missing their starting right tackle. We've seen the narrative be heavy on Twitter about like Trent Williams being out is more important than CMC being out. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if you end up getting a little less ownership on Denver simply because late swap to the Packers. All right, Devin's saying, judge my lineup in the Deposit Kingdom. May, Hunt, Walker, Reek, JSN, Bourne, Henry, HN, Broncos. So you've got May double stacked with Bourne and Henry. Ugh. How much is Bourne? Okay, so you're just going for the super cheap. I like the Henry call, stacking with May. I just say, and Pete talked about this on his video this week in the Deposit Kingdom video, is like the naked, and I think this was more for underdog contest, but like in general, naked quarterbacks are more optimal than they are not, especially when they're rushing quarterbacks. So like naked Bo, naked May, naked Allen, those guys are not as bad options when you think about it, especially because potentially it's keeping like they can hit without dragging along shitty players like Bourne. So I don't mind the game theory in a vacuum. I'd say I like May, love Hunt. Crane did note that Walker and the Seahawks have been a little bit more run heavy than they had been pass heavy. Arizona's defense going into the bye was a pretty decent matchup for running backs. If they made any adjustments, most likely on offensive side of the ball than the defensive side of the ball. Love Tyreek, especially with Christian Gonzalez potentially being out today. That's nice. Love the JSN thing. Really and truly. Love HN. Yeah, you're playing Reek and HN. It's just like consolidating all the points on the Dolphins. The scary part about that is you are paying up a little bit for Tyreek. Jonnu and HN have been seeing a lot more work. But the Tyreek, theoretical, really nice. I think there's a spot that two doubles and triples could be interesting. I don't mind this lineup. If you can get a stronger play than Bourne by swapping from Broncos to Packers, yeah. Just because, I think Kayshon Bouttie's been the better play. I don't know that I wanted to play any Patriots wide receiver is the thing. I could pay down and play Brian Robinson instead of Walker and pay up for someone like Dubs instead of Bourne. See, this is where it's tough. Is like I do objectively think Brian Robinson is just a better play this week. Walker's not seeing as many targets. So from that standpoint, and the question is the 2v2 of Brian Robinson and Dubs on a PPR site much better than that of Walker and Bourne? I tend to think yes. But here I am tinkering your lineup, and, then I owe you half your $10 entry fee if I fuck it up. Which maybe that's the arrangement. Maybe I talk you into this swap or a swap of sorts, and you come back and you come back in chat next week, you hit the chat and you say, here's my Venmo, Tyler. You owe me half of my Deposit Kingdom entry. I'm saying Noah Gray could do some work in a blowout today too. Yeah, when we're already talking about like 2 or 3 different blowouts, we're probably getting off the rails because Kansas City has played down to competition more often than not the last year and a half, 2 years. And Bryce Young did look pretty decent, so they could just play an ugly game where like they move the ball really well, but the score may not actually reflect that. We've seen that before. We've seen the Chiefs like lap the opponent in yards, but not lap them in the scoreboard. Earlier in the week, I heard Niners are much better versus outside receivers than slot, which is where Dubs plays. Oh, you're saying the matchup for Dubs being harder than right. Well, matchup. A tough matchup for Dubs makes Dubs still a better play than Bourne in a vacuum. No, right? How many snaps was he playing? This is turning into a DFS show. Bourne played 47% snaps, which was down from his previous 2 games where he was 78 and 78%. He did see 5 targets and the touchdown. That said, Las Vegas or the Rams, good matchup for any folks. Miami is a really good matchup for the running back. Could be a good Ramondre Stevenson day. I'd say if this is a lineup, you have a good feeling about it. You've made it here. You're double stacking May, and you have 2 bringbacks. So you're game stacking this. You're saying Miami, New England's going to have a lot of points, and these are the guys I'm playing it through. And if that's the thesis, then stick with that. But I understand where you're like the Walker and Bourne thing. I wouldn't feel the need to have May double stacked, but if you're starting him, then him being double stacked is probably a better play than Skinny, given how you've kind of like you're playing 5 pieces from this game. So you're kind of identifying this game as like the game to have with all the points. Theoretically, that's possible. Miami could have one of their best games against a very, very bad wide receiver secondary, especially with Gonzalez being out. So May and the wide receivers could have a really good day. Miami could have a really good day via the pass. Achane's been super strong. New England's not been that good against the running backs either. And then with New England being pushed, Miami's defense hasn't exactly been strong. I don't mind that, right? Have conviction in the game you've identified in the pieces you do. Don't tinker your way out of it, but also just make sure to question like why you identified and why you're playing what you're playing. Bourne at 3,600, not the worst thing in the world. All that said, yeah, and I don't know that Dobbs is that much stronger of a play from a matchup, but Dubs has also just kind of been like more of a 50-50 ball guy than he is like getting open and matchup dependent. I'd say the concern with Dobbs is more that Green Bay is not going to struggle as much versus the offense that's out on the field most likely, and they have been more conservative as late. So this probably is more of a Jacobs game than it is a Green Bay passing game. Part of that's just because Love's been injured and very volatile, so that's probably part of the problem. Devin, I'm gonna get back to you in a sec. Wilby, what's up? Welcome back. Start 2 PPR. Eckler, Dowdle, Waddle. Thanks. Man, the Waddle thing sucks, right? Man, I don't know. I don't know that you can play Dowdle this week. But starting Waddle sucks. His matchup today, we were just talking about the New England secondary. Pretty good matchup for him. But as long as they're using Jonnu and Achane as the wide receiver ones, there's just not a lot of work. Consensus rankings say that Dowdle's a much stronger play than Waddle. What a time to be alive. The Cooper Rush led Rico Dowdle, and then Eckler. I mean, the matchup alone is really solid, and they're splitting work, and he has pass catching outs if they want to keep running the quick stuff. Thorman has Waddle ranked 72nd and Eckler 77th. He is the expert ranker I value the most. I would be remiss to not say that most other rankers have Eckler much higher than that. Thorman's the guy, though. So it looks like it's Dowdle with Eckler and Waddle being the toss-ups. Yeah, it is gross. God. I want to make like an upside case for Waddle, but the upside case is Eckler is just very, very efficient with like 8 to 10 touches versus Dallas. And gets like a couple long runs and a touchdown potentially. The up case for Waddle is that he's like the fucking fourth target right now because it's Achane, Tyreek, Jonnu, and then Waddle. He's like the fourth priority target in a middling to good matchup. Ugh. Who would you rather see on the like? Who would you feel worse about on your bench going off? Waddle or Eckler, right? Man, I think I'd leave Waddle on my bench. I would leave Waddle on my bench. Thorman says 5 spots, Waddle edge to Eckler. That said, I think Dan Quinn and the Washington offense wants to score 50 points versus Dallas and rub it in their faces. And Eckler is part of that. Devin, I'm going to get back to you in just a sec. Let me hit these real quick. Zay Flowers or Juwan Jennings. Also, Will Disley or Sam Laporta. This is a must-win week. If I don't win, I'm not making the playoffs, please. Here to help, brother. Ooh, yeah, the Flowers versus Jennings thing is tough because Jennings before Purdy would have been incredibly amazing. Johnny, I want to help you out, brother. Is this PPR or half PPR? I want to make sure. And for your Disley versus Laporta, is I'm assuming same league. Is this tight end premium? What are we talking about here? I'm here to help. Full PPR. Okay, perfect. Adjusting the projection ranks. Checking expert. Thorman has Flowers 11, Juwan Jennings 25th. LAC's been more pass heavy. Flowers has seen pretty good usage. It's hard in a must-win week. It's pretty hard to start Juwan Jennings with Brendan Allen at quarterback and Trent Williams being out. So yeah, I think it's going to be Zay Flowers over Jennings, and then Disley versus Laporta. I think it's Disley very easily, and then you just have like a mini game correlation there. Seriously. Oh my god, yeah, it's Disley by. I'm checking. So my vibes say Disley, and Thorman and the other expert consensus has him as a 8 versus 12th ranked tight end. So it's to be Flowers and Disley, brother. Good luck. Report back. Tweet at me or hit back, Johnny. Hit the like, hit the sub here. I'm very invested in your must-win week. Because I'm right there with you, bro. I got some tough decisions to have to win this week too. So, good luck. Yeah, it's gonna be Disley and Flowers. Okay, Devin, real quick. You said we're 12 weeks into the season. I swear to God, every good game cycle lets me down. And blah, 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 with the right spot. Yeah. Yep. You gotta just make a call there, and with single entry life, you just gotta, and that's what I'm saying. Just make your stand, go with conviction, and you gotta do what you gotta do. Chaos is gonna reign supreme. 30 fade Achane, May, Robinson, Hunt. I mean, if you're going to do an Achane fade, it's going to be that Hunt goes off more than Achane does. If you're going to do that. And Robinson outscores. I think if you're going to do that, that's probably the way to do it. If you're going to do that, that's the way to do it. That's all I'm going to say. I don't mind it. I could sit here and we all do this. We go back and forth, and Jason Cohen saying you are forgetting that Waddle is clearly due. Today he goes for 110 and 2 touchdowns via the he's due theory. Jason, I forgot about the he's due theory. Damn it. You're so correct. So sharp, man. Much appreciated. Always thoughtful and thorough. Hit that like, y'all. Thank you, Wilby. Yeah. I'm gonna talk it out. We're gonna slam it back and forth. Pause. And we're gonna figure it out on this channel every Sunday morning before kickoff. This is what we do. Jesus Zavala says start Bucky or Tyrone Tracy. Half PPR or PPR? I'm assuming half PPR. This one's tough. Tracy's a super strong play. The Tampa Bay matchup is tougher against running backs than it is for wide receivers by a pretty wide margin. Bucky has been really efficient. He's seen really good usage in both the ground and the air. Tracy's been just very explosive, though. Bucky's got the better quarterback. He is splitting workload, though. Tracy's got a handle on all the workload. If it's half PPR, Thorman has Tracy ranked as 20 and Bucky 22nd. So like this is much, I was like, this is gonna be much closer because Bucky's receiving work has been much stronger than Tracy's has. Tracy's explosive, but he's getting all the run as a rusher, not as a receiver. So that's one of the problems. And Bucky can see 2, 3, 4. He saw like 7 targets a couple weeks ago. The Giants are a run funnel. At the end of the day, heuristically, we simplify things, we profit. The simplicity is that Tyrone Tracy is an explosive, efficient running back, and he's seeing almost all of the work. Like he's one of the few like kind of like bell cows as far as like full snaps, volume, and usage. Fantasy points come from volume. But also simplicity tells us that a backup quarterback, as bad as DeVito, is not good, especially for running backs. But running backs and wide receiver ones are typically the only people that can be viable with shitty quarterbacks. Everybody else suffers. Bucky's got a really, really, really strong matchup today. So if you have to choose one, I'd say Tyrone. I would go down with the ship with Tyrone being so explosive and so good. But if you were at all concerned about the DeVito and them getting blown out thing, that said, I do think sneakily DeVito could see Tracy get more targets because I do expect a shitty guy and a less mobile guy like DeVito that Daboll's just like, I just want to PPR scam Neighbors, Wandale, and Tracy to get the ball out quickly and not take like league leading sacks like DeVito does. So I think this could be the game where Tracy gets some of his best receiving usage, which would mitigate any of the concerns with that. But I do just want to note for your awareness that Bucky does have a better receiving yards over under and only a 6 rushing yard over under less than Tracy per Vegas odds. So I'd say they're much closer than that. If you want to go with the team that's likely to score more points, I understand. And if you want to go with the guy who's going to see much more volume likely, I understand. It's just not as clear from the volume perspective because DeVito and the Giants will likely lose and lose badly. And so you're hoping that the catch-up mode doesn't see Tracy getting no work through the pass game, and it's just Neighbors, Slayton, and Wandale. Thank you. Appreciate you, Johnny. Devin asking, or Jacobs instead of Walker and Marvin instead of Reed as a bring back to JSN. You get Jaden Reed in the. I think you're overthinking this a bit. I definitely would not have. I'd have Marvin over Reed easily. Jacobs is a volume play over Walker, sure, but he does have a calf injury he's nursing. I'd say don't get too away. That said, if you have Walker and Jace, like I said, you're taking two pieces of offenses. You're saying these guys are going to score all the points in these games, going to see the most points. You might be threading a thin needle if like your entire lineup is that if you're doing that with like let's say you had like an onslaught of like Lions and pre-Purdy injury Niners, I think that's more viable. I don't know how many points the Seahawks are going to score, and if you're saying it's going to consolidate all between Walker and JSN, I don't know, right? Because Walker, if he gets there, it's probably home run plays, long plays, and that means less for JSN to be eating. So that might be too thin. Don't overthink it. Back up at you've gotten deep in the weeds. Back up and just go heuristics and get back to your high level stuff. Just ask yourself like, what are the likelihoods that these guys hit together, and that these are the games and the offenses with all the points you need. Stoke has the Hawk projection at 10.4 fantasy points. Are you over or under that? I'm assuming Stochastic's PPR. They're using tight ends more, but they're using Josh Oliver a lot. It's very weird. I thought Hawk was due last week, and then he doesn't. So, that's a good question. I think this is his 4th full week back away, so his efficiency should be better. So I say slightly into the over, just that he could see middling volume because they just insist on using Oliver now that Darrisaw is out. And I don't get it. I talked to a Vikings fan. It doesn't really make any sense why they're involving Oliver so much outside of just funneling targets at the tight ends. I would expect Hockenson to be the closest that he has been in a long time back to his efficiency self. So the Yak could be back better. So I slightly lean to over. I think they probably nail it with the projection though. Full PPR for Bucky Tracy. Sorry. No, you're good. You're good. I think PPR makes it closer. Yeah, there you go. Man, I love it when my gut instinct was PPR makes it closer to tied, and with PPR, Thorman agrees that it's a 1 spot higher on Bucky than Tracy. FYI, Jesus. I have Laporta, Disley, Kincaid, and I want to know which 2 tight ends I should drop next week, meaning which tight end I should move on from here on out. I want to pick up Christian Watson. I want to drop one now. Yeah. The Kincaid injury, I think Jeff Mueller noted Kincaid could miss multiple weeks. Let me check before I tell you wrong. And we've got a lot to hit in the next 13 minutes, but I will get to all of it. I promise. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. We will lightning round get through all of this. Promise. Yeah, so the Kincaid thing was PCL sprain or patella bursa irritation, which was similar to, I believe, what Puka dealt with and missed the most for. So from that standpoint, if you're dropping one of these guys, Johnny, fuck, dude, I think you're keeping Disley. You're either dropping Kincaid or Laporta. I think, damn, dude. You were starting Kincaid over Laporta. Laporta's attached to the better offense, but with everybody healthy, I think you have to drop Laporta because just like you're never going to be starting him unless he's your only tight end. I think the Kincaid has a better out to volume, unfortunately. So I think it's Laporta. But my concern with saying that though is that Kincaid's injury has already been multi-week. That said, it's a bye week this week. I would just want to know more about it. If you're dropping one right now, you're saying Laporta. I'd rather rock with Kincaid, or you're saying I'm worried Kincaid's injuries long term. I think the Kincaid thing's worth it because I think you're probably starting Disley no matter what the next week or two, and then Kincaid's like your high end ability if Disley misses any time or if they relegate him back because they're going more run heavy late in the season, and Kincaid could be like the volume bet you make for 4 catches and a touchdown in the playoff weeks. So you're probably dropping Laporta because Laporta's like just he's a prayer right now. I'd be starting Henry over him in most cases, all things considered. Should I hold all 3? I think Watson's too good of a play to pass up. I think holding 3 tight ends is a mistake, especially when a guy like Watson, who's been really, really strong the last couple of weeks and could potentially cement it. And lest we forget, he's got a pretty nice Week 17 matchup with. So I think dropping a tight end for Watson's very much worth it. And I don't think you're going to really have any regrets. You're just not dropping Disley. You can't be dropping Disley right now. His usage and his efficiency's been too good. Pittman or Dubs, full PPR. Oof. Probably Dubs, but fucking hell. Jesus. It's just hard. It's hard for me to be starting Pittman. Sorry, guys. I'm going to check on the pup. Making a lot of sounds. Man, they're nearly dead even, but Pittman's projection is 2 points higher than Dobbs. I'm checking Thorman. Thorman says Pittman, so I guess you're just gonna just chase the Detroit point totals and pray to God. Oh shit, I missed it. Oliver's out. Well then, yeah, I think over for Hawkinson. If he Oliver's the only guy that's catching, so that means Hawkinson's gonna consolidate everything. So I would imagine that sets Hawks targets at probably 6.5 to 7, with probably 5.5 to 6 reception projection. And I think with Oliver out, I didn't realize that. I don't think they trust Munt as much as Oliver for whatever reason. Because I think what they're doing is they're using Oliver to help with some like the blocking and quick out stuff. But wouldn't that be hilarious if it's just like Munt's just absorbing the Oliver 3 to 5 targets a game too? But if they were doing that, I don't think Oliver would be getting that. Is my take. All right, folks, going to be powering it down here in a minute or two. If you have any last burning questions, this was great, guys. This was good. Went a little bit longer than I thought, but we had a lot of good questions and good thoughts to work through late. Tinker and overthink season is upon us. So when in doubt, zoom out, go back to the simplistics, go back to the projections, go back to macro game theory, and for those of you that are doing like playoff planning, high value positions and players are more valuable to be stashing for bench than not. Oh, that was the kindest damn thing anyone said all goddamn morning. Thank you for being you. You're welcome, Devin, and I appreciate you joining, having a lively chat. It was always fun. Not as many dick jokes this morning, and that's okay because we're just talking ball, bro. We just know ball. All right, Wilby's got one more. All good. Non-PPR Reader Jennings. So you're saying standard? So it's touchdown or bust? Jesus Christ. It's probably still Jennings. Reed's just been outmatched right now by Watson and Dubs. I still like Jennings, but Thorman disagrees with me. Thorman says I'm wrong. He says if you're doing standard, expert consensus says Jaden. Man, it sucks. It sucks for Jennings. I was really excited. As Historical says, save a horse, ride a cowboy. Good luck, everyone. Indeed, good luck, everyone. It is week 12. It's make or break for many folks, as we heard in chat. Good luck. Best wishes. Get those wins. Dominate your people. Go full Jameis on their ass. Put your body on the line. Say wild, weird shit that make people go, huh? And aw at the same time. Good luck. See you all next week. We'll be back for Battle Royale stuff, and we'll be back for last minute start sit, because this is what we do. We sweat together. We drive together. We pound forever like those god-awful Panthers. And you know what? I think we're going to have some fun games today. Let's hope for all the points. Best of luck. Pray to your fantasy gods. Eat your greenies. Eat your protein. Get swole. Dominate your opponents. See you back on the channel. Thanks for hitting the likes. Thanks for hitting the subscribe. Road to 4K here on the Fantasy Sanctuary. Good luck.